when I actually get up in the morning, what I do, I look for 10x. And the whole topic of this conversation today is going to be about 10x. And I'm going to explain to you in a minute what it means. It really starts with aspirations. What is 10x? Most companies think about progress in terms of doing what they do today better. They think they can save more money. They think they can increase profits. They think they can get their next version, version 6, version 7, version 8 better. That's the essence of what I see mostly around the world around me. 10 to 15% improvements. And people, by the way, 10 and 15% improvements are not easy feats. You have to work hard to get 15%. At Google, we actually have a fundamental belief that that's not the way to tackle opportunities. The way to create amazing products is, and what really makes people's lives happy, is not 15%. It's really fundamentally rethinking completely differently opportunities. It's this stuff. And I'm using it because nobody thought of it. And yet, Sergey had this amazing inspiration one day. He came in, he always comes in like a few minutes late to our meeting. He came in and the first thing he said to us was, I'm just so tired of taking my cell phone out of my pocket. It makes no sense. I must do this like 80 times a day. There's got to be a better answer. He didn't ask the question, how can I actually make the phone 15% faster? He asked the question, what's the real answer? And here's an example of what the real answer is. When we take a look at opportunities to do a product or a service, one of the very first questions that we ask ourselves is, will a minimum of 1 billion people use this? And if it's not going to be at least 1 billion people, it's probably not worth our time. And it puts an incredible filter on how you think about opportunities. And as a CFO, I have to tell you, it makes my job so much easier. And what's amazing about this 10x mindset is, if you think about it, when you do these outlandish things, in a way, it's not about competition. The competition is yourself. The competition is this kind of healthy disregard for the impossible. And because of that, you're always kind of setting the field in which you want to compete by pushing yourself out there. And that's just a very different mindset than saying, how do I compare to the company next door? How does my product compare? I don't spend all my time actually asking myself on a long list of, here's my attributes versus X. I ask myself the question, how is it really changing the world? How will it wow? How will it be that anywhere in the world I am, I can turn on my maps and I can get my directions? Anywhere in the world. I know that many of you will kind of say, when you think about Google, it's really easy for you, Google. You know, Patrick, you're sitting on 50 billion of cash on your balance sheet. You're generating all this cash flow. It's so easy for you to take risks. Well, let me remind you that the mission of the company was really set in its very early days, 15 years ago, when there were really two guys in a garage, in Susan Wojcicki's garage. And their mission was organize and make useful all of the world's information. All of the world's information from a garage in Menlo Park. And they had a ton of constraints, but they had the right license to think 10x even back then. We have a natural tendency as humans to think that if you think of search, for example, or if you think of the digital economy, it's mostly done now. That's the mindset that it's a natural instinct that we'll have, which is, yeah, search is pretty much done, right? I get most of what I want from Google. And my message to you is, that's the wrong premise. We're really in early innings. You should look at the world in the first inning of this run, of this baseball game, which is the digital economy, which is big data, which is the opportunities around you. We only have a couple of billion people with cell phones. There's another 5 billion that will show up with different economics, but there's 5 billion of them. And they want a better life, and they want better tools, and they want amazing things. And the real question is, somebody's going to give it to them. Who is it going to be? Here's the opportunity that's in front of you. I would propose the following insight at a very highest level. Although it's still early days, I think that the Enlightenment is truly gaining ground as a positive force in the world. It's still early days, though. But already, Enlightenment has really delivered amazing riches to humanity. If you think about it, it's built on this absolute fundamental optimism of the human capability to understand the world in which we live in, to shift from dogmas, all these beliefs that are either set on myths or traditions or interpretations, but in fact, trusting facts. And if you have trusting facts as a premise, is there no better world than the world of big data to do it in?
You talked about a world that would be a better place if you had like 50 other Googles. So what are some of the other companies out there, maybe upcoming or already established, that you really admire and you think that they have their hearts and minds in the right place?
That's a good question. I think that in the digital space, in general, I love the digital space, and we do. I think, to make the case for Apple, I think Apple is a great company. It's just very different than us. And we're frenemies, right? We have all this co-opetitions, right? There are so many things with whom we agree wholeheartedly with Apple, and there are many things that we don't agree with them. But that doesn't mean they're not a great company, right? All of these companies in our digital space, all these companies are terrific companies. They're really raising the bar everywhere and pushing for innovation. Our view is that that's all good. I think that, and that's true for large companies like that. It's also true for very small companies, right? And Twitter is a great company, right? It's got its own kind of, if you like broadcast, right? If you want to get kind of your news on or your feeds, I mean, it's just an amazing product. So again, right? So much opportunity for so many areas and so many spaces that for us, I don't think there's space for jealousy in the digital economy, given all of the opportunity around us. And I think that it's very different. If you were in mining, right? In mining, or if you take an industry that's got, a very kind of set market that's very mature, you're in a beer industry, right? It's like, here you go. There's how many hectoliters a year, and now you're all fighting for 2 points of market share. It's just very different than how we think about it, which is there's so many open fields. And so we love to see all these startups around us. I mean, the Silicon Valley it's just effervescent of all this activity because of that. And it's wonderful to see it. Even if you had a business here, spending time in Silicon Valley is invaluable. Invaluable. It has tremendous value. The gravity pull of the valley is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So it's a bit like the physics of black hole, right? Once you kind of get close to it, you're gone, right? Light can't even get out. And the valley just attracts, even if you don't have to be there all the time, but you have to take the time to be there in order to actually have all the conversations. Because there's ventures breakfast, and there's angel breakfasts, and there's all of this kind of, because remember, I think it's 60% of all the venture dollars are within like a mile and a half. Right? Roughly 2/3 of all the venture money in the digital economy in a mile and a half, right? You just go up Sand Hill Road, right? There, Kleiner, Sequoia, right? Boom, 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 boom. With your bike, you do it in one morning, right? And so everything's around it too. So I think that the insight for me is you can't really dissociate yourself with that kind of environment. You can, but the benefit of at least having a toe in is immensely valuable. And so I encourage everybody to put it in their business plan to take the time to actually spend the time on the ground in Silicon Valley.
I wanted to ask a question about Google Fiber. What's the thought process behind going into a space with so many really large companies who have historically, provided not that great of a service to its customers and just upending it?
I think your last sentence is the perfect one. So I didn't tell you this, but I'm also kind of part of the leadership team of Google Fiber, just because I've got to tell you this story. This is how Google really works. You're in an executive committee meeting. We have a big debate about this. This was like 5 years ago. We had this big debate about gigabit Ethernet because it was recognized, like, if you think about it, the fundamental insight is the following. Moore's law continues to go at blazing pace. Storage cost continues to go at blazing pace, so the cost was going to zero. But access cost was going nowhere. So the question that we asked ourselves was, is it a technology issue or is it an industry conduct issue? If it's a technology issue, there's something fundamentally flawed in the technology that you cannot actually go 10 or 100x, then it's a technology issue. And then you got your bottleneck for the next round of the digital economy. So what we did is we started a small experiment, and we kind of proved to ourselves that it had nothing to do with technology. And when we did that, then we needed a leader to actually get going on Google Fiber. So we had this big kerfuffle at L-Team, at our executive committee, and Eric at the time was the CEO. So Eric went around, I couldn't duck fast enough. And Eric went like, ooh, Patrick, you know this stuff by heart. Congratulations, you're now the leader of Google Fiber. And that's how I inherited the project. And then from there, we decided, okay, because we had the fact base to say that it wasn't really a technology issue, then we needed, to invest in it, prove ourselves the model. We picked one city, and even on demand, right? We want to ask ourselves, even if you could get a gig, would people want it, right? So we asked the cities of the US, anybody interested in a gig, right? Over 1,000 cities showed up and knocked at our door. Over 1,000. You remember Topeka and all that stuff? People are dying for speed. So what did we do? We hired another rocket scientist. In fact, in this case, he is really a rocket scientist, Milo Medin. So he worked at NASA for quite a while. But Milo is worked at Home, which was the first 5 meg modem business. And so with Milo and a team, a cadre of executives and engineers we hired, we built this incredible kind of business model where it changes. Again, think of 10x. If you're going to actually rebuild an access network, you do the following things. You can't be, and all the criticism you'll read today in the literature, the financial literature, is Google Fiber is going to suck because it's another overbuilder, and here's the economics of overbuilders, and they all suck. And therefore, Google's going to suck at Google Fiber, right? So that's the perfect logical argument. And, but what it misses fundamentally is 3 things. One is, at Google Fiber, we've made a commitment to build the demand. So we show up in a town like Kansas City, we divide it up in all neighborhoods, and we say, if a minimum threshold of people are willing to take the service, we'll build. If you don't, we won't. I don't have to, right? Amazingly, what we said to them also is, if you hit the threshold, we'll on our dime put fiber into all of your utilities, your fire stations, your police stations, your libraries, your schools. And just that made it that in Kansas City, over 90% of the neighborhoods signed up, which makes the base economics very different. The second thing that we have at Google is we're not an assembler. I told you, we're an engineering company. So instead of buying Cisco gear and Juniper gear and Siemens gear and Lucent Alcatel gear, try to plug them all together and use Microsoft home media for the rendering. For the most part, we built everything. And when you're an engineering company and you build everything, so the box that you get, the set-top box that you get, our set-top box, our code. There's part of the chip is not ours, but even part of the chip is our code as well. And when you build end-to-end your own stack, my cost curve is, and both my cost structure and my cost curve is completely different than everybody else. Everybody else has exactly the same costs because they all assemble the same stuff. I'm in a completely different position, and I control my destiny not only on cost, but I control my destiny in the pace at which I can innovate. If I want to push V2 or V3, I don't have to phone 19 suppliers and say, you have to put this in your lab for 6 weeks. I can just do it. Right? And then finally, there's the product itself. You have the choice in Kansas City for roughly $120 to get your cable and your internet, and you get the regular cable and the internet at 5 megs or maybe 10 megs, asymmetrical. Our product, the base product is data. So we're changing the world. We're telling the world, what you're buying is data. And I can put video on top of it, but what you're buying is data. So you're getting a gig symmetrical for $70 a month. And if you want your TV, It's still 120. It's roughly the same price as the guy next door. But now you get a gig symmetrical. And by the way, if anybody of you that has a GoPro, right, take your long movie and try to upload it, right? You go for a coffee, right, for a long or dinner. If you want to keep your high def, right? Symmetric matters now. It didn't matter in the first days of the internet because it was all download. Now it matters immensely. So symmetrical mattered, and so we give you a gig symmetrical on your home box if you have TV, 2 terabytes of storage, terabytes, 1 terabyte in the cloud. You can have 6 HD movies recorded all at once while you're watching something else, right? And every TV set, every box that's your TV, is also a Wi-Fi hotspot. So instead of having just one box that comes into the house that is, now you go upstairs and it's like you see your signal going down and you're like, ah, right? That trade-off of, ah, right? Nobody wants that. So every TV is a Wi-Fi hotspot, 250 megabits. It's just a different product. And by the way, your remote control is a tablet, right? Because who wants one of these, like 19 buttons? And you're like, really? How do I, right? So that's how we thought. We just thought the world deserved much better.
So what's your view on sponsored links?
It starts first with the ad. Forget about economics for a minute. We have these algorithms at Google that always balance how much money you're willing to pay and the relevance of the ad. So to make the most extreme case, if the ad is not relevant, no matter how much money you put in it, it will not show. Our quest is, in fact, to give you the perfect ad. If you're looking to buy a heart rate monitor, if you're looking to buy hiking poles, if you're looking to buy an electric skateboard, you have, I'm going to come back to the big data issue. There's a lot of context about you. And the more that you're willing to share with Google about your context, the better I can actually pin an ad that actually will serve you right. So the car is the best example. Let's come back to cars for a sec. Anybody wants to guess what the car I drive? Not a Tesla. But that's a good question because I'm the CFO. Everybody else has a Tesla, but if you're the CFO, you don't drive a Tesla because it's 90 grand. And the CFO is paid to signal that he's frugal, right? So 90 grand, frugal, doesn't work, right? So the CFO, I mean, it comes with the territory. Right? But I can afford just about anything I want, right? So what's my car? Close. What's better than the Prius all in? Total value. Golf, diesel, standard. Golf, diesel, I don't have a kid, I don't have the kids, I don't need the minivan, I don't need any of this, right? Golf, diesel, standard. Out of the parking lot, all in, less than 23 grand, brand new, 4 years of service free, 45 miles a gallon, right? And still connects my Bluetooth to my Android phone. Now, when I searched, we needed to get a car last year for a bunch of reasons. When I searched for cars, what I got was pretty bad ads. I got like all the Teslas. On Google, like you look at exactly, that's the point. My point is, I told you in search we're just starting. In ads we're just starting. If everything you know about me, right, I should have had, right, a Prius ad, I should have had a Volkswagen ad, and I should have had probably another one, right? That would have been really targeted to, you know who I am. And I didn't get that instead, right? I got the big GM Escalade or whatever it was, right? Which makes no sense to me. So my point is this. My point is, we're still and we have this amazing ads team that are really working hard to make sure that an ad that gives you the right answer to you immediately, that ties you, because all it is you want an answer. It's just a commercial answer instead of you want to know, how high is kind of Kilimanjaro, right? It's just a different query, but one is a commercial one. You want the best answer. And for that, not only should you get the best ads, but then amongst the best ads, you should let them decide how much they want to pay, which is our auction-based system. And if you have the best ad, in theory, you should be willing to pay less because you're the best ad. And that's the magic of these auction systems. And that's the magic of actually the engineering. And that's the magic of big data. And that's why we're optimistic about the future. Because most of the ads today, right, are okay. But there's so much more to go.
Could you please talk a little bit about Google Glass and where do you think it's going? When do you think it'll become a reality? Just like the smartphone became a reality all of a sudden. When do you think there will be 1 billion people using it? And if you could give us a little demo, that'd be awesome too.
Turn it on. Why don't we turn it on? Let me just turn this thing on. I don't have my, here we go. So the way you wear it is you put it at your eyebrow level, so you continue to see everybody the way you see everybody. And what it does do is I now got, instead of having my screen here, which I'd be looking, I got it here. And everything I would see normally on my screen, I see now just above my eyebrow. So as I got this video I took yesterday, I bought it, I told you I'm looking at all these different modes of transportation. So I bought, it's expensive, I admit it. So on the cost curve, they have to get down. I bought a new electric bike that's legal in the US. And it runs 45 kilometers an hour. And when you take a video on it, you have two choices. You take your cell phone out, right, and you kill yourself because you're now going 45 kilometers an hour. So that was option A. Option B is just use your glass and you say, okay, glass. And then you say, record a video. And now, all of you are going to be in this video that I'm going to post afterwards. And then you can all share it back. So I got 10 seconds of it. And now it closes. So if you want, so now it's ready to share. If I wanted to share it with the public, if I wanted to share it at home, it's done. And if I tap on it, I see my OK Glass. So the minute I say OK Glass, I get a whole range of activities I can do. I can take a picture, which is it did. I can get directions. So instead of looking for my navigation on my car or on my bicycle in my case, it just tells me, right? In 400 feet, you're going to turn left. And boom, away you go. And so I can read my emails. So right now I can see my emails. I can see the New York Times article. I'm just flipping around, see what's going on in my inbox, right? All of these things that are the natural events of your day, and the natural events of your day are just done without the encumbrance of both hands. Now imagine if you're a parent with young kids, right? What's the value of a second hand? It's actually immense, right? If you're biking like I am and you're flying down on the coast and you want to take this amazing picture, what's the value of that? It's actually absolutely amazing. So these are the applications that, and by the way, I can phone, right? I can phone my wife, just phone tomorrow, and then they'll phone it. And it's on Bluetooth with my phone. So basically your phone becomes a brick that you leave in your backpack, and you just live with it every day. It's an absolute, and again, this is where we are now, right? Remember what I said about kind of docks a few minutes ago? 36 months ago, nobody believed that it would do anything, right? Just imagine what this thing is going to, it's going to morph into 17 different things over the coming half decade. And the point is, instead of seeing the field of competition as just this, why would you do that when there's everything else around you? And that's the essence of, 10x. And you have it in spades with this gizmo, which I just absolutely adore. And when you're on, I phoned my parents. I was in Sydney. I travel all around the world. I'm in Sydney, and you can start a hangout. So you're under the Sydney Bridge, and you look up, and you kind of hang out with your parents, or you phone somebody, and you say, "Guess where I am?" And they're like, "Well, you're under a bridge, but where are you?" And then you just pan over to the Opera House, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were in 2 days ago. You weren't you, like what?" And it's just wonderful. It just makes life magical. These are the kind of things that we want to build together. With that, thank you so much for the invitation today.